So the other part of the editor is actually the level designing part. I could do quite a few things with it, adjust the terrain, the standard things you get in level editors, that kind of thing. The thing I have here that I've been using for the other video is just an example scene. So there's a few things that need to be maintained within the level, which is 64 by 64 map. Just get around here, and you also need some basic entities, which are these mannequins here inside this box. This trigger box doesn't really need to be necessary. That just allows positioning of where you want the player to be, essentially. It's important for all game modes to have that, or there's no place for them to go. You can see here I've just drew a quick path based in the mud towards this wooden gate here, which are just simple models supplied by the engine. And then you go through some trees, and it's just meant to be this enclosed kind of encampment with some terrain blocking them up and some tents and so forth. But I'm just going to showcase some of the tools that we can utilize to help build that kind of thing. So in our we'll just build some more terrain into it and just see what we can add. The first thing I do is just the tile editor. So like if you want to add some variations to the terrain in terms of height, you can just customize it like this. Maybe we want it so that there's this tent is kind of hard to get into and it's kind of reclused. Maybe it's such as like a chieftain tent. Maybe just close this just a little bit. And we want it to be protected, so have that there. And perhaps just in here we just have a small enclosure and kind of separate the site a little bit, and perhaps just over here we have some pits. Oh, that's too deep. Unfortunately it's a little bit wonky sometimes because it seems to help automatically adjust the terrain itself sometimes, so we just keep it like this. And then perhaps we want some ponds, so we just removes that from the terrain. As I said, it's a little bit wonky sometimes, but once you get the hang of it, we can essentially have it set up. So there we go, we have a nice little fishing spot, once it stops playing around. And there we go. Got a nice little fishing pond, a little few steps to walk around. So you can just come through the city and then there. So that's just some of the paint effects. The next is just to display paths. So we can just create a path that goes here. And the path system is thankfully the easiest part of this engine. It's quite easy to set up. You can see the wireframe that goes across. And then the last part is essentially just trees. So trees just create here, just create some up here. Just auto generation, which is quite nice and it's quite smooth on the engine too. There we go, so add some obscurity to it. And another thing we could do is we can change the tile set. So the tile set is based upon in here, which is in these folders here, which are essentially just massive libraries of different things to choose from. So I was just pick the autumn and then just clear these trees, and then you can see here that it's painting some different trees which are based upon the Dyer setting. And then there's another set we can do, which is the basic for the Dyer, which are slightly different. There's not much. The Dyer doesn't really change too often. It's just the color variations that happen in them. So that's that. Just clear that. Just add some more. We can adjust certain things like the brush size, the density, all that kind of thing, and also the kind of trees. So there's some nice lush red trees, and then some dark ones. I quite like them there. We can also do it with some plants just to help fill out the scene a little bit more. So just add some slight decorations into the level. And these two can change, so it's based on Dyer. If we just go to autumn, you can see how it briefly changes So Dire's all about death and skeletons, that kind of thing. Classic kind of Warcraft kind of aesthetic appeal of good and bad. I have just the paint tool, which is basically, it's not so much a paint tool as a paint tool. It paints grass onto paths and just enriches the texture that's applied to the map. So generally what you would do is you would essentially, what I would do anyway, is just paint it near the foliage and the trees, and it just makes it a bit richer when you're walking around. So you can see I've already done some here, because it just makes it look like it's actual grass, rather than over here. You can actually see it quite more briefly there, so that you've got just this green paint texture here. It's just green paint, or if here you've got this grass texture that shows a bit better. And then this is just the place objects. So this goes through a cycle of objects that you can pass into it, but you can just change, and it's at random. It's a really strange thing that I haven't completely worked out yet. But yeah, really strange. I'm still working out that kind of tool placement yet. Bright side is it has you can see it has like a coordinate system. These are just essentially map tile objects. That makes it really quite easy to actually change about the editor, change about objects, which I haven't seen in other game engines, which is quite nice. It's a really good feature for finding out specific elements within the level. And then yeah, just the simple select tool, and then you just disable and disable placement of tiles and so forth. The next part is simply just changing about the models. So if we click on this model here, it's just a tent with a little entrance hole, and it's quite easy just to move around, and we can just duplicate one by holding shift left click, and you can scale it as much as you want. Now unfortunately, unlike Unreal or Unity, if you want to add like box colliders and so forth, you need to essentially apply a bone structure to it, so it has a skeletal bone inside of it. And there's a process of doing that. I've yet to learn it. I've looked it up. And it's a little bit complicated at first, but apparently once you know the process, it's really, really easy according to the community. And it allows you to apply trigger boxes to it, but you can adjust the materials applied to it, just in terms of like geometry and skin and all that kind of thing. And hopefully, once I get that set up, they'll be used to essentially just build out the... I should really just stop talking.